What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this segment of Mikasa Sukasa at Politicon. Today, I am here with Saagar from the Hill. First of all, let's clear this up. Yeah. It's Saagar, correct?
Saagar. I was gonna say, but it's okay.
Yeah, okay, because everybody literally call you Saagar. They go Saagar, Saagar.
Right. Nobody knows, and that's kind of how I like it.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. I'm literally have a 2-syllable name, and everybody keeps spelling it wrong. Like it's literally Niko. People will tag me in the post
with Nico,
and they'll put tag Niko and then say but Niko and with Nico. Yeah. So the name struggle online is real. But I definitely had to talk to you and say, first of all, thank you for being so damn reasonable.
Thank you.
And reminding people that not every conservative is a Charlie Kirk. Sorry, I had to get that out there. But and also, thanks for what you and Crystal do. So you got tell me, how did that come to be? Like, what made you decide to leave what was essentially a mainstream outlet to like taking the chance and say, you know what, let's do the YouTube thing.
Well, so it's not like it was a conscious choice. So what happened is that the show used to be a little bit something different. Buck Sexton, who was here, he used to co-host it with Crystal. Buck ended up leaving to do his radio show like full time, so I kind of came in the chair. And the thing is that Crystal and I, it was just that everything clicked in the right. So like I was in the chair, but her and I have just the same anti-establishment view.
Yeah,
like
a lot
we
of synergy.
share. Right, and ultimately what it was, it's like populist left and populist right, and then we started posting to YouTube at that time, and like honestly, it just started coming together. Like it wasn't a conscious strategy necessarily, and
just being real.
It was like
enjoying it.
We were just putting it out there, and then the response was just been incredible.
Were you surprised? Cause like I said, you coming from a mainstream outlet, it's like I feel like maybe the chamber that you were in before. Right. You're kind of like, is anybody even watching? Because I remember you even joked about it. You're like, wow, I didn't notice many people watch the show.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's like I came up through like stovepipe traditional media. I was a White House correspondent. Like I've done a lot of TV. I've done the networks, like all these other things. And that's like a very specific audience. It's boomers, let's be honest, right? Like
60 and up.
Yeah, it's like 60 and up. And so I've always hated it because I want to talk to people my own age who are like frustrated about the same things that I am. And that was the thing.
So that's the thing now. Like that's like people they got their favorite commentators and pundits, like they have favorite musical artists.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's like that.
And that's the thing is like the moment we started posting to YouTube, I mean the response was just amazing. And I love engaging with it, and like I love our fans, and like I love the YouTube ecosystem. I think I was telling you this.
Yeah.
Which is that on YouTube, the discussion that we're able to have, A, the internet is limitless, but B, it's so different than cable. And this is a guy who's done a lot of cable TV hits, right? Like I've done probably over 100 appearances on like Fox News. I don't think I've ever said anything that intelligent because that's not the medium.
Yeah,
it's like react to this poll.
It will probably go over their head. On top of that.
And exactly. So I think one time I tried to make a point about American nationalism in the context of history, and everyone was like, "Yeah, and Bernie Sanders is." It's like,
yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Kyle Kyle's been on Fox News, and every time they are so caught off because he says, I mean, things that on YouTube we say regularly.
Exactly.
It's like run-of-the-mill stuff.
It's the thing with the Trump thing coming from the right. They'll be like, no, President Trump has done this. And it's like, look, I'm not going to sit and defend Trump like all the time just because he's Trump. Like, if he does something I like, sure, we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, that doesn't work in traditional media. And YouTube it's such a great space to just talk and people want to hear. It's awesome.
And I've noticed. So here's interesting. I don't know if you knew this, which I'm sure you once again have heard this more recently.
Yeah.
I found out that Saagar was a conservative maybe like 2 weeks ago. Some people found out yesterday when I told them.
Right.
So how does it feel for you? As like I said, you've come from traditional conservative media. You basically talked conservative points for your entire career, and you get to YouTube, you link up with Crystal, and basically progressives are like throwing you probably the most respect, and conservatives probably don't even know you're conservative until they ask you, and there are maybe it's like a very specific point that you make, and like, oh shit, you're conservative? Or when you say it eventually.
Right. I think here's the way it is, right? Like, it's not, this is the whole point of the show, which is, and if it's just progressives who are watching, that's fine with me, because the whole point of the show is that the economic system that we have in this country is corrupt, that it's bad, and as somebody who lives in Washington, D.C., has interacted and interacts all the time with people who are in the elite, these people are bought off by corporate interests. This is something that keeps everybody down. That's what I try and talk about with. And so, like, I don't even think that's a necessarily conservative thing. Now, here's the thing. The way that we would approach the solutions to that, probably different, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we get into on the show all the time. I mean, I debate Bernie Sanders' policy advisor on Medicare for all, on marijuana, on drug policy, right? Like, all these other different things will come at it from very different angles. But the shared, here's the thing. All it is that Crystal and I share a consensus view that what's going on is wrong. And these people will tell you with a straight face that everything is fine.
Yeah.
And that...
Or they'll blame the other side exclusively.
Right. But and even then, they don't mean it, right? Like, they don't actually mean it. They believe
and he worked with them people. He worked with them. He's telling you.
I'm telling you, this is the truth. Like, listen, it's all performance art. And the truth is they're all getting rich. They all hang out with each other. They go to the same parties. They can't actually blast each other too hard on the real stuff, like the corporate stuff. They can't say it because they're all employed by them. It's like, and look, I mean, I just decided I don't really care about being in that set. And, you know, the one thing Donald Trump revealed, right, is that nobody actually cares what those people think.
That's so damn true.
You know?
Yep, I would say that's a combination. The thing, it's funny because I feel the same way about Bernie and Trump, and even more recently, Tulsi getting attacked by Hillary.
Right.
When everybody else that's running in the primary would probably be quiet, they wouldn't address Hillary directly because that's like political suicide and potentially real suicide, depending on who you are. But like when she said that, she understood the same thing that you do, the same thing that I do, the same thing that Trump exposed, the same thing that Bernie exposed. I'm going to go after you because I've been talking to the people and I know how they feel about Hillary. No matter what positive image, whatever positive spin you try to put on this woman, the damage she has caused, not only domestically, but internationally as well, is real. And when they tried to come at her, oh my God, well, Hillary said she's a Russian asset, so we should seriously consider this. When she came back by herself in her own voice, it echoed 1,000 times louder. Her fundraising just skyrocketed. Her followers went up, like everything. It worked out to her advantage in every way because literally nobody cares about what the main. In fact, if the mainstream says something, then everybody just assumes it's the opposite.
Yeah, and that's generally a good rule. I mean, these are the people who will watch the debates and be like, Joe Biden had a great night, everybody. And I'm like, what universe are you living in? Right? And these are the same people. I mean, even the Trump people. I get so frustrated with this. A lot of my friends on the right, they're like, but the economy is great. I'm like, listen, the economy is fine for how it's structured. Yeah. Right? It's like, but the problem is that we're talking on a much deeper structural level, which is that the way things are is not okay.
And the inequality is so high. Right. It's so high. The opportunity for small businesses is lower and lower.
And then that's when I talk about GDP all the time. Look, on the right, everybody's been obsessed with GDP for the last. And I'm like, okay, GDP is great. And we have an opioid crisis, suicide is up. There's a national despair throughout the working class of this country. Where the hell, GDP's not doing anything for anybody there.
And if you're conservative, and I would say that for the most part, the Midwest is like a weird mix. Like, you have maybe a progressive or a leftist bastion every now and then, like a Michigan with Detroit, for example. But people forget the rest of Michigan generally is pretty damn conservative. All the outskirts, which is like most of the state. So if you're conservative, it's like for some reason like they kind of get stuck in this. Oh, well, if Trump said everything is all right and my friends in Washington said everything is all right, it's all good. But, like, your supporters are the ones that are mostly suffering. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've seen
here's what I would say. So I would say Trump, the problem with him is he recognizes this on a very guttural, instinctual level. And this is my big warning to a lot of you guys in the progressive movement, which is, I've been talking about this all day. You guys have to understand that Washington is still a captured city, right? And so, like, it's a technocratic place, and you guys got to be ready if you're actually going to win to actually push some of this through the bureaucracy because Trump was not able to do any of that, right? Like ultimately, he was completely taken over by the Washington establishment. Almost immediately, the RNC staffing the White House.
Met with Henry Kissinger.
Like, I mean, all these people, right? Like, they came in, they set the foreign policy, they set the economic agenda, and he was just like, I'm making America great again. You know, he doesn't really, like, he didn't stay true to what he actually ran on.
And when he tried, they would crush
they
him.
immediately crushed him. Where's, immigration? Nothing's happened. Where's the wall? It's basically like a replacement fence.
Yeah.
Even on trade.
Neither Trump nor the Democrats got, and they both like to pretend like they had victories, but like, no, the private prison industry is who won in the immigration crisis. Like $270 a day per child.
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
That's very true. Right, and this is the thing is, it's all about confusing true political movement with how to actually get some stuff done.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like how I think.
Yeah, I'm very solutions based.
And you should
for progress, like for example, I always talk about AOC. I'm probably one of her most critical supporters, but it's only because I'm the same way. I think the same way. I have to figure out from a progressive standpoint what is our biggest strength going into a situation like AOC.
Right.
AOC had the mandate of all damn mandates, and that was only second to Bernie. And the little things here and there can destroy that.
Yeah.
And for a progressive, like let's be honest, we get 4 or 5 votes max as progressives right now in the House. But if you can bring the conversation left and force people in different districts who are electing these Congress people to also say, hey, if you're not going to support this policy, then we got problems. That's your strength.
See, Niko, you're exactly right. And this is what the right refuses to do, which is that Donald Trump won on a mandate from our voters saying we want less immigration and we want better trade policy. So what do? They pass a massive corporate tax cut for businesses that benefit from low-skilled immigration and from bad trade policy with China.
Yep.
That and where was the administration on that?
Yep.
They didn't pressure anybody. These corporate Republicans.
They did not. Yeah.
I mean, they did nothing.
And it's crazy because his mandate is weird because like the corporate Republicans. Yeah. Like he's basically been in lockstep with them for the most part, but like his mandate's also so large that literally there are Republicans who absolutely want to impeach him and get him out. But when they announce impeachment, the GOP raised $1 million in 24 hours.
Yes.
Trump is a cash cow.
I talk about this on my show all the time, which is that Donald Trump is running a true grassroots campaign, and I know a lot of people on the left don't want to admit that. But listen, he's got $154 million in the bank. Okay. And guess what? Yeah, $154 million cash on hand. Average donation, $44.
I heard it went down.
$44. 98% of his donations are less than $200. To put that in perspective, Joe Biden's donations, only 31% of his donations are less than $200.
Bro.
Donald Trump isn't a grassroots candidate. You can believe whatever you want. $154 million. That is 5 or 6 times more than Bernie Sanders has in the bank right now. And this is the thing, like, people need to come to grips with that, which is that there are a lot of people who stand for a lot of what Trump is saying, and people in the Republican Party, and Trump himself has just been allowed himself to be taken over by so many of these interests. And I would say that's my biggest disappointment with him.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing, and it's funny because I feel like my critique of Bernie, the one critique, one of the very few critiques I have is actually my main critique of Trump as well. You all have this insane mandate that we have never seen in history, and we have it in both parties.
Exactly.
And I feel like neither of them use it to the degree that they should be.
No, they don't, because guess what? It's hard. I get it. I live in Washington. It is a city that is built on cocktail parties and who was seen in whom and whose name gets into the thing about the spotted list.
Yeah.
I mean, and these people, I know it sounds ridiculous, but they run America, right? Like, it's all about like who's going to get donated to whom, who's going to get invited to this conference or that conference or this or whatever. And these things all shut down the moment that you actually start speaking up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, look, I mean, I'm not invited to a lot of these things with some of the media anymore. Shocking, right? Like,
I know.
That I say. And I don't really care because...
How dare you speak positive about Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard?
Same on my Twitter account, you know, like, I have no problem going after CNN and people will be like, what's wrong with you? Like,
you can't do that.
They're like, what's wrong with you?
And you're not going at them from a partisan perspective. You're just like, corruption. You're corrupt.
Yeah, I'm like, you're terrible. Like, I go after their debate coverage and somebody literally said to me, don't you want to go work at CNN? I'm like, I don't want to work at CNN. I would never work for CNN.
Yeah.
And this is the benefit of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Which is, guess what? We're cutting the middleman out, and we're actually just talking directly to people. If you don't like what I have to say, you can change it
now. Like you're your own brand. And like that also translates out of YouTube.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, and you know, obviously we've seen this with Kyle, Jimmy Dore, who you know they have their own brands.
Absolutely.
Now, like their network kind of controls their messaging. And all their messaging is influenced by a bunch of voices that nobody really knows, all saying the same thing. So it like creates this authority. It's like a fallacy of authority through consensus. And yet you can have the same amount of influence with one viral video, one viral clip. And it's not, and you know, you're on the Hill Rising, but people didn't even know that y'all were on the Hill until like maybe after a while. They're like, this is on the Hill?
Yeah, right.
Like they know.
Yeah, we get that all the time.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They know you as Saagar, and that's how I think that for you, if you want to be effective at what you do, that's the best place for you to be at.
Yeah,
you know
here's the best thing I love about my show, which is that I am still at the Hill. I have a studio in downtown Washington. So I had real politicians that come into my studio all the time. And guess what? I think what people like is that we're the only people, anti-establishment people, who ask anti-establishment questions of establishment politicians.
Like straight to their face.
Right, and it's
y'all challenge them whenever you have like one of the establishment talking heads come on.
Right.
And y'all are like, no, that makes no damn sense. You don't have to bring that back. And they always kind of get caught off guard.
Yeah, they've never heard it before. They're
like, hold on, you actually, I don't have this is my talking point. Right. I don't have a response
That's
to that.
The thing is, they're so trained for cable, which is cable is all about you do this, you button, you look straight into a camera, you argue with some guy in your ear. 3 minutes later, you take it out, and that's it. You don't actually
know what their arguments
real
are
points.
already.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's a socialist." No, he's not. It's free market, and it's so boring. It's a low IQ discussion, and like that's the thing we really try to bring to the show.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. And well, I appreciate you. You know, I appreciate what you all are doing. Like, it's amazing. It's inspirational to see, like, you know, kind of seeing a mainstream network come into this space and then realize, like, whoa, we did not know that there is this much like anti-establishment, you know, anti-corruption support. And it's once again, you're in a unique situation because it's nonpartisan. And same thing, Jimmy Dore. His base is probably half and half. Or at least 30% conservative at least. Kyle's base, my base, same. They have a lot of Trump supporters. Right. You know, they're like, bro, we might not agree on a lot of things, but I don't have to wonder about whether or not you're saying it because you're getting paid, because you have some ulterior agenda. I'm like, nah, I have the candidate that I support. I have my ideology that I lean towards. Mm-hmm. But as far as corruption is concerned, this is an absolute. I'm just absolutely against corruption.
And I called that out just the other day. I was like, you know, this whole, like, I'm obsessed with the Hunter Biden story.
I am too.
And there's a reason for this, which is Hunter goes to Romania. He then, to work for a corrupt Ukrainian or Romanian businessman, he decides he needs to hire the former FBI director, appointed by a Republican president. And then he decides Louis Freeh.
Okay.
And then he decides that Louis Freeh decides that we have to hire the former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, to consult on this case. Look, this is bipartisan, but it's disgusting. Yeah. Why are all these American citizens of immense power defending a Romanian businessman? Why is that allowed in this country? It's insane.
Why can Jake Tapper look at the world in the face, look at Biden and say, we know everything that Trump has said about your son is a complete and total lie.
It's a conspiracy theory.
And it's a conspiracy theory, and it's been disproven already. I'm like, did he or did he not take $50,000 a month from that?
Right, that's not a conspiracy theory. It's in the
New
York Times. I've covered this on the show. The New York Times' own reporting demonstrates. They lay it out line by line. Hunter Biden flies to China.
Almost fell out of my chair when he said that. Because he said it with a straight face. And I'm like, yo, how is this legal? It was like that. And that's what we're dealing with. So I'm glad that we got people like you and you know, people in the independent community who are standing up to these narratives, because at the end of the day, look, conservatives and progressives and the left and the right, we can argue about how to get things done, but Lord baby Jesus, y'all, if we don't reel in this military-industrial complex, if we don't reel in this corruption, the lobbying, the lies, we're never going to be able to actually have a debate about how to get these solutions through that. And I would love to be able to sit across from Saagar and argue what's the best way to implement a universal health care system. But like, we're both like, but shit, none of our solutions are going to happen if all these lobbyists are here changing the conversation. Yeah. So
I mean, that's the thing is, from my perspective on healthcare, I'm like, it's good. Okay, all right. From my perspective, like, it's like, yeah, I agree with the solution. I mean, I agree with the problem, which is we need to drop overall costs. And you're exactly right. I would love to sit across from you and be like, break up the hospital cartel. And guess what? You're not allowed to say on.
Yeah. Right? I mean, that's the thing too. Yeah. Like, actually, I'm kind of with you on that one. So, and also we also figure out after you are allowed to have a conversation that we actually probably agree on like 80%, like a 20% thing that we're all gonna have to you're gonna trial and error and things like that. What works in one country may not work in another. What works in Australia may not work in Canada, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I can't wait to have those conversations one day. But it seems like right now the most important conversation to have right now is exposing the truth and exposing the frauds and exposing the way these narratives are manufactured so that people can see the patterns, and exposing that conservatives or progressives, whatever side of the aisle, they're not your enemy. And the media has to create adversarial relationships because they thrive on drama. I mean, it's television. Everything on television thrives on drama.
Right. Yeah.
And not saying that, not saying that it doesn't have, that the arguments don't have their place, but it's disingenuous in the way they're going about it because I guarantee you we agree more on most things than we disagree on.
Absolutely.
And coincidentally enough, the shit that they all agree on, we hate. Like whenever
Exactly.
they're like, we should absolutely bomb Syria, all of a sudden Fox News and CNN are saying the exact same thing with the exception of Tucker Carlson, like that's it. And we're all like on the anti-establishment. We're like, the fuck? Why should we bomb
or
them?
Afghanistan. It's like, well, wait. It's like, well, hold on a second. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, we got to be there. We just have to. We just have to.
Yeah.
And then we're like, why?
Yeah.
Like, hold on, why are y'all agreeing all of a sudden? I thought y'all hate each other. So those are the type of things that we have to keep exposing. I hope I'm blessed to be able to continue to do it, and I'm glad that you're with the family now.
Well, hey, thank you for having me on, Niko.
Thank
really
you, man.
It.
I appreciate you
Absolutely.
coming on. So, Chris, I said, what's up?
I will.
All
I
right.
will. She said.
All right.